Hey guys, this is Carson Miller Tech here, back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about something that has been a major pain point of the Mavic Mini literally since I got it. Back in January I was complaining about it, and even just a couple weeks ago I released a video talking about some ND filters which fixes the issue somewhat, and that is manual exposure on the Mavic Mini. And recently DJI has changed that by releasing a firmware update within the last week which allows you to finally have manual exposure on the drone. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to get manual exposure on the Mavic Mini. I'll also be showing you how to use it, and then also I'll just be showing you some shots in comparison to having the auto exposure and manual exposure, just to show you how important it is that the manual exposure is finally here. And before getting to showing you how to get the update, I just want to mention, for those of you who are saying, well, are ND filters even worth it anymore, and polarized lenses as well? Yes, they are, and in fact, with the manual exposure, it makes them just that much better because you can really dial down the settings even more than if you just have the filters without the manual exposure. So I just wanted to get that cat out of the bag here up front because I've had a lot of people asking, is it even still worth it to have ND filters and polarized lenses? Yes, it is. But with that being said, let's get right into showing you how to get the manual exposure. So in order to get manual exposure, it's really quite simple. All you got to do is update the firmware of the Mavic Mini, and I did go and show how to do that in my recent video up there if you're interested in learning more settings about the Mavic Mini. But as for right now, I'll just show you really quickly how to do this update. So you're going to want to click on the three dots in the upper right hand corner of the screen, and then you're going to want to click on the About, and then right where it says Aircraft Firmware, click on Check for Updates. And once you click Check for Updates, it will check the version and say a new version is available. So once it does that, now on this screen you'll see what it talks about. So a couple other things that are new about this update is that it finally has 24 frames per second as well, which a lot of filmmakers were wanting. Myself personally, I totally hate lower frame rates than 30 frames per second. It's just, it feels really blocky and choppy to me, so I don't totally dig that. But if that's your thing, all the power to you. It is now in the drone, which is pretty cool to hear, and it's just got some other improvements as well. But the biggest thing is that manual exposure, at least in my opinion. So all you're going to want to do is click Update, and then it will go and download the firmware update. Alright, so now that the update has complete, it does say that you have to go and turn the aircraft back on. So I'm going to go do that right now. There we go, it is turning back on. And it also does mention in the update log that if you have a beeping controller after the update, then you need to go and calibrate the controller. So I'm not having that issue, but if you have that beeping issue, click the three dots in the upper right hand corner, click on Control, scroll down, and then right where it says RC calibration underneath remote controller, you click that and you run a remote controller calibration. And that should fix your issue. But like I said, for me, I don't have that issue, but now that I have the firmware update, you want to do one more thing. You want to make sure that your DJI Fly app is running the latest update, and it has to be the latest update or newer. So you need to be running version 1.0.8 or newer, which is what I have right now, and the update came out 4 weeks ago, so more than likely you probably have the update by now if you update your apps frequently. So in my case I do, so I'm just going to go back into the DJI Fly app. Alright, so now that you have the firmware updated on the drone and the app updated, you can access the feature. And the way to access manual exposure on the Mavic Mini in video mode is in the bottom right hand corner where it says Auto on a little camera. That was there before, but before it was grayed out because you couldn't click on it. But now, if you click on it, look at that. You have manual exposure, and it did get really bright because it's set to have a really low shutter speed right now. So this really just shows you how high of a shutter speed the drone has to go in order to compensate for bright light. And this is where having the ND filters are super important. If you want to have a low ISO as well as a lower shutter speed in bright environments like this, you're just gonna have to use ND filters, which I don't have one on right now because I just want to show you the power of just simply manual exposure. And so yeah, really all you have to do to adjust this exposure is you just tap on the number that you want to adjust, the shutter speed or the ISO, which I'm really happy that you can adjust the ISO now, because you don't want a super high ISO or else you'll get super grainy footage, which you won't necessarily get to see right now in this light because it's just too bright to have the highest ISO. But it is awesome that that is there now and that you can see what the exposure settings are on your drone. So I'm gonna have the shutter speed set around, I don't know, 1600 or 1250 looks good, maybe 1600. So now that you have that, honestly, you can get out and get flying. So I'm gonna do that now. Let's take off. I do just want to show you the difference between being able to adjust the exposure yourself and it being automatically set. So as you can see, everything is, it's a little bit dark right now. So what you can do in manual exposure is just go to shutter and lower that shutter speed. And that will allow more light to get into the sensor. And there you go. So it is a little bit overexposed in some locations, as you can see looking down. So that's where having this manual exposure is good in different environments, because there may be a scenario where you're just shooting down at the ground and the sky is just super bright. And sometimes the auto doesn't do that too well. So I do want to show you now with the auto, in order to change between manual and auto, you cannot be recording. So I am recording right now. As you can see, I can't tap the camera. It brings up an error and says that you have to switch camera modes in order to change that. So now I can change it to auto, and as you saw, it adjusted the exposure once I clicked auto. So in auto, it does this all for you. Some people, that may be their cup of tea, others maybe not so much. For me personally, I do kind of like having the manual exposure just a little bit more, because it's just, I have more control over it, and especially with the ND and polarized lenses, that just really helps improve the overall quality of the video clips and photo clips. Even before this update, there was this manual exposure option in photos in the Mavic Mini. I know that. So before people go and comment, it's always been there. No, it hasn't always been there. It has been there in photos, but the biggest thing is having this available in video, which is just huge for me. So just to show you the same thing in photos, if you change to photo mode, there is the auto. It's in auto by default, but you can click the little button and you can adjust the specifics yourself here as well. So now that I've showed you that, I do want to just show you the options for video now have 30 frames per second, 25 frames per second, and 24 frames per second. So overall, I'm just super happy that DJI has finally added this to my arsenal of what I can do with the Mavic Mini, because it was very much needed. So there we go. And if you've noticed, this thing that I'm looking down into is pretty awesome. This was sent to me by Freewell a couple years ago actually, and I kind of forgot that I had it. But what it is it is a phone shield, and basically it allows no glares to really pop up on your phone. So it's awesome to have in bright sunny days like today. It has this cool little section down here on the bottom where you can go and tap your screen of your phone, so you don't have to like reach through the top of this right here, because that would be a little weird. So it's awesome that it has that, and it just attaches to the bottom of your phone and holds on the bottom of your phone, and it's got some Velcro and some little snaps here. So it's pretty easy to put on, and also it is super convenient because it has these hooks on the side to go and allow you to hook on a lanyard, which is just awesome because the Mavic Mini doesn't have a place to attach a lanyard to. And yeah, the controller isn't super heavy, but also for times where, oh, I want to go talk to somebody, look, you can just leave it hanging down. And it's very nice having this feature. I wish I remembered that I had this and I'd probably use it more, but I just found it recently and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I forgot I had that. So even if you get one of these that isn't from Freewell Gear, which yes, they did send me this a couple years ago for free, but they didn't pay me to say any of this, and like I said, I honestly kind of forgot I had it, but it is a great addition to add to your arsenal of when you're flying your drone. In days like this, it's nice sometimes to be able to just look like this, which it may look a little dumb, but you will save your phone's battery by not having to turn up the brightness as much, and also it'll just save your eyes from having to focus so hard on the bright screen. So it's super nice to have this, and I'm happy that I found it. So I will be leaving a link to this down in the description below if you want more information on it. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that for those of you wondering about this. that's what that is. A quick crash course for those of you who don't know much about photography and shutter speed and ISO.
Basically, past Carson talked way too long about this, so I'm going to make it really short and sweet right here and now. So as far as ISO and shutter speeds go, you want to start by adjusting the ISO first, and this is adjusted depending on your environment, but typically you want to stay as low of a number as possible. So that means 100, 200, 400. I usually don't go past 400 because past that you start to introduce grain into your footage. So you want to keep a lower number, and then right after that is when you get to adjusting the shutter speed. And as far as shutter speeds go, that really is determined by what you're trying to take a photo or video of. So if you want to take something like a fast moving vehicle that you want to be super crisp, or like sports and you're taking photos, then you're going to want a higher shutter speed, because a shutter speed that is higher freezes a frame in time, but a shutter speed that is lower will introduce some more natural looking motion blur. So a good rule of thumb for shutter speed is that you typically want to double your frame rate. So since I'm recording in 30 frames per second, for example, I'll want to hover around a shutter speed of around 60. But because the Mavic Mini does not really allow that with the camera immediately on the drone, you will need something like an ND filter to get down to that. So that's where the ND filters are still helpful. But there you go, there's your quick crash course.
So manual exposure is great, and if there would be one other thing that I'd have to request from DJI to make the Mavic Mini that much better, it would be adding tap for exposure. You know, on your phone or literally most cameras, if you just tap, it will go and automatically set the exposure based on the area that you tap to. So if I tapped on this basketball court tiling right now, it would be a lot darker than if I tapped on the grass, because it would expose for different locations in the image. And that isn't available right now in auto or manual. So that isn't there if you're somebody who is looking for that. Sadly, that's not there. So there you have it. There is manual exposure on the Mavic Mini. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you found something of value out of it, make sure to let me know by clicking the thumbs up button down below, as well as commenting about what you found interesting, and also leave a comment letting me know what you want to see in future videos, because a lot of my videos are made based on comments that you guys leave on the videos. So keep leaving them down below and I'll keep creating videos about the Mavic Mini. And if you want to see more videos from me and about the Mavic Mini, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. If you want to see my last video, that should be up there, and some random videos should be down there. But with that being said, that is it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Peace.